Hey everybody, it's Francis, and I want to welcome you to the new What a Hell of a Way to Dad podcast. All of the same content that you've been enjoying, but Nate and I have not been in the military for multiple years at this point, and we've decided that what we really want to talk about is parenting. So you're going to still get a lot of the same great content. Patreon is still going to have all of our bonus episodes, all of the old bonus episodes, 8 years of bonus content is still there. $5 a month gets you access to all of that, and you will continue to get 3 episodes a month going beyond that. We've got our ongoing Deadliest Warrior series that we're running. We have a MASHcast that I do with Carrie. We have a lot of really great stuff over there, so if you like what you're hearing here and you want to hear a little bit more, patreon.com/hellofawaytodie is where to find all of that. You can also check out our store, whatahellofawaytodad.com. It has all the things from our old store, but also it's got a few new sections. It's got an apparel section, it's got the podcast attic, and it has art and handmade stuff. So give it a look. whatahellofawaytodad.com. Find yourself something new. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show.
Glory, glory, what a hell of a way to die. Glory, glory, what a hell of a way to die. Glory, glory, what a hell of a way to die. He ain't gonna jump no more.
Hey everybody, welcome to another bonus episode of What a Hell of a Way to Dad. It is your monthly Deadliest Warrior, and I have gotten the zoo crew back in. Gentlemen, how are you doing?
I'm good. I cycled into the studio today, and it was fucking windy. I had headphones in, listening to something, and the wind was so strong, I literally couldn't hear anything over the sound of the wind.
They should turn off all those windmills.
It is officially back to rainy and windy weather. It's it's nice.
Yeah, I mean, and similarly, because, this is Dad Chat, so I feel like, in particular, we all need to discuss the weather where we are this morning. So
that's all I got, because I'm not a dad. I mean, we're in a hell of a way to dad. There's only one dad.
Yeah, but, it's been surprisingly temperate here in, metropolitan Massachusetts. Last year, it was fucking 90 degrees until October, and it didn't even snow because of climate change. This year, it is now fall in mid-August. But then it's going to be July again in like 2 days. So, we're having fun. I've worn, this is now going to already be the time of year where I keep 8 different sets of clothes in my car, because it will be a different temperature when I get into my car and when I leave my car every single time I go somewhere.
Yeah, I woke up, it was 56 degrees. I haven't felt that temperature on my skin in months.
Right, exactly.
It's still warm here.
Cold.
It's still warm here. Now, by warm, I mean it's like maybe 60. 65 currently. But I have to have a rain jacket because it might rain. And which means it is way too hot to be wearing said rain jacket. So I'm kind of fucked either way. I'm just getting my ass whipped by the wind. I almost got blown into traffic. It's good stuff.
Well, gentlemen, I brought you on because we're going to do another episode of Deadliest Warrior. And this is the first Deadliest Warrior episode where we have some squad-on-squad action. Now, originally, years ago, I had you guys on to talk about the Taliban versus the IRA. And I will probably revisit that with somebody, but I wanted you guys on because this is, I feel historically, this is something that kind of falls into our wheelhouse because I absolutely love how dumb the Soviets are, and I also love how dumb our special forces are. So this is Green Berets versus the Spetsnaz. So let's go through our characters first. So we've got our normal Jeff Desmoulins, we've got Dr. Dorian, and we got Max Geiger, our 3 guys who are running the show. Jeff Desmoulins, every time they introduce him, they have to give him like some other qualifier, like he's been a paramedic, he's a black belt in karate, like whatever it requires him to do. It's like, oh, we're going to do hand to hand. Well, Jeff Desmoulins here got a black belt in karate. Jeff Desmoulins knows what a gunshot wound can do to a person because he was a paramedic. Jeff Desmoulins also has a lot of sensors and is able to capture a lot of information for them. He's there.
Yeah, my guy went to Radio Shack.
You've got Max Geiger as your regular nerd and Jeff Desmoulins is your masculine nerd.
It is funny because he's like at one point he brings out like the speed trap sense or whatever else, and it's like they really try to talk it up and make it sound really high tech, and it's like, yeah, it's got like a light at one end and then a light at the other end, and then it measure the distance between the lights, and it's like, my guy, you got that from Radio Shack, or like, I don't know, like what do you call it? Not Spencer Gifts, but the one that used to get like the catalog from that had like
Yeah.
all the fancy shit in it.
Yeah.
Oh,
With, like, the
Sharper
vibrant-
Image.
Sharper Image. Yeah, you got that from Sharper Image.
I do like that the showrunner of The Deadliest Warrior eventually had to resign because it turned out he was lying about being a Green Beret or a Navy SEAL forever.
Yeah.
Just great stuff all around.
So for our Green Berets, we have Matt Anderson and Sergeant George Gomez. Gomez was an actual Green Beret during the recording of this. I found some news articles from, where are they at? Fort Bragg, I think, is where they were.
Yeah.
At the time, it was named Fort Bragg. It's Liberty now, I think. I don't know. And Matt Anderson is, of course, a stuntman. Everybody that they usually grab here that's a former anything, like former Green Beret, former martial artist, former swordsman, or current swordsman, they're all stuntmen. They're all Hollywood stuntmen. And then for the Spetsnaz, we've got Sony Puzakis and Maxim Franz. And I did a little bit of research into these guys.
So
Sony,
did I. They're just absolute joys.
They're one. Sony has a podcast called The Gospel of Violence and has a whole website for doing. He's one of those like firearms training guys. I'll teach you how to be safe in an office environment when
Is he still doing stuff now?
Yeah.
he's still
Oh, yeah.
he's
Okay.
still got an active website. Oh yeah.
Just wasn't sure if it was like, and then he disappeared in 2020 for reasons.
So Sonny is an interesting guy insofar as he has been doing YouTube gun content for as long as that has been a thing. And
The original gun tubers.
yeah, and it is just, I mean, I think he was putting out like VHSs and shit even before then. And each one is honestly worth watching, and not for the reason that you think it is. It's because it is just a series of Sonny doing incredibly unsafe things with guns. You've probably seen that very famous viral video where the guy is like, "This is what you do if you're surrounded."
Yeah.
And he spins around in a circle, firing an AK while like in one hand and a pistol in the other in the middle of a field.
Yeah.
That is Sonny. That video has done that video has run the circuit multiple times of like, LOL, look how dumb this shit is.
Yeah.
But probably the most important thing is he once shot a man 3 times in training on accident.
Okay, the first 2 times I'll give you a pass on, but the third time, man, you gotta bring that trigger finger under
the thing
control.
that sucks is it was single fire.
Yeah, like it was a 9mm pistol. It was at his Patriot training facility in Texas.
Patriots. He's a Soviet.
He did this.
He's
in the
Russian.
He did this in the United States now.
Yes. Yeah, he lives in the US now.
Not like this is a story of a thing that he did like while he was getting his ass kicked, like, in the first place in Russia. This is
No,
okay.
he was both a Soviet and then Russian Spetsnaz operator. He fought in the war in Afghanistan and the first Chechen War, which is worrying for many reasons.
I've listened to a podcast about that before.
And he also frames himself as like this unarmed self-defense expert in the system known as Systema. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this.
I did a little research into it. Yeah, the other our other guy Maxim Franz is also a martial artist.
Yeah, they work together.
Okay.
But Maxim no longer works for him because apparently, according to gun tuber drama boards that I found in the Wayback Machine, they like someone fucked somebody else's wife.
Yep, that'll do it.
And so for people who aren't,
well, at least that way they actually are soldiers. So
Yeah. For people who don't have like a deeply fucked up brain when it comes to weird martial arts systems, Systema is easily described as Russian Krav Maga, but magical.
It is very much like you ever watched the videos of Steven Seagal fighting people with he's got his whole karate get up on, and the very slow like him taking everything down. That's what Systema feels like.
Steven Seagal did a different form of stupid fake martial arts that doesn't work. It's called Aikido. But Systema is the same vibes as Krav Maga in that it's supposed to be like the super dangerous martial arts system trained to police and military that you totally can't do in live sparring simply because it's so dangerous it'll kill you. But also it's like uses energy and fucking chakras and shit. It is. If you want to be endlessly entertained, look up YouTube videos of Systema people. They're fucking incredible.
I did. I watched one where they had to they kind of get into the push-up position, but like their chest is really low and they're having to I've seen people, okay, you get up on your knuckles, right? You get up on your knuckles and you do push-ups with your knuckles on, but they're like, it's like the heels of their palms and they have to swirl around or something. Like, oh yes, this is how we warm up.
My personal favorite one that I saw was a French Systema channel, which I believe is just called like French Systema or something. But they go to Russia to train all the time because it's like the Hajj for stupid probably not anymore, I assume. But like, it was this. Anyway, long story short, it ends up being these two Frenchmen getting a martial arts massage by a large Russian man with a stick that is like drawing blood. In the meanwhile, for some reason, there is a man in the background lying on the floor with a sword just laid down on top of him because it's supposed to give him masculine energy. It's incredible. It's fucking amazing.
That's how I sleep every night. I mean, realistically, we're about like, I don't know, maybe 10 years away from someone like people doing that with AR-15s.
People are already doing that with AR-15s. There's a whole church about it. Like one of the Moonies guys' weird kids created a church of like the AR-15.
Oh yeah, I just mean like it'll be a thing like every we'll get a new GOP U.S. Senate candidate who is just going to talk about how they sleep with a pile of handguns on their head every night to make sure that they respect the Second Amendment.
Yeah. I mean, like the Systema dudes are doing weird alpha male toxic content creator shit so many years before it was cool.
Yeah, these guys, like the one time the Soviets are ahead of the curve on something.
This isn't a Soviet
guys on the
thing.
internet with guns.
This is not a Soviet thing. It is 100% a Russian thing.
Right. Okay. Well, I understand. There's regardless, everything that these guys do, every time that Sony is out doing anything gun stuff, I have to laugh because he's doing. I don't know what it is about Russian soldiers and loving to do flippy shit and loving to roll around on the ground and like take themselves out. Like, okay, I need to get it from here to there. I should take myself out of the fight for 1 to 3 seconds as I roll around in the dirt.
I have to do a backhand spring into a fucking
right
triple double or whatever.
One of the most famous, pictures of the Spetsnaz is that guy who's doing a backflip with a hatchet in his hand. And
I believe he's throwing it at a flaming target or something.
Right, and like much like most things that you get from the Russian military and from a lot of other militaries that always seem to try to kind of pump themselves up, especially against Americans. You watch that and you're like, wow, that looks pretty cool, but also it's completely fucking useless. Like,
yeah,
I don't know if you've ever seen the parades, like the Indian military strongmen who they'll just like put on vehicles on the roof of a vehicle and drive them around while they do push-ups.
I know
like,
Egypt did that once too. It ruled.
Egypt. Egypt.
Well, then like the Spetsnaz will do the thing where like they always have the videos where they'll interdict a car, but instead of just shooting out the engine block, they like
just jump through the window.
They jump through the windshield, or like they all jump in through different parts of the car for some reason.
There's a reason for that, and it's as dumb as you can possibly imagine. It is because there is something of the Soviet post-Soviet military sphere, which I've dealt with personally to some extent, where in lieu of like a system in place with good quality training, they do shit that they think is cool.
Right.
Like a good example of this, there's a militia organization in Armenia, which I won't name, who invited me to go and look at their training facility. And they were like, they're supposed to train people on just like like the most basic training you can possibly imagine. That I mean like basic handling of a weapon, because they don't have supplies to do much else, right? And I show up and they're teaching people how to throw knives, and like abseil off of cliffs and shit. And it's because like in the dirt, like the fucking black hole of quality military, like modern military training, they fill that with shit they think looks awesome.
Yeah, with cool guy stuff. With
Yeah.
like they're doing epic military shit instead of, that they saw in, once again, a Steven Seagal movie, back when he would get up Alpha's Lazy Boy, rather than anything real. Like this would be like, if my dumb Coast Guard ass was trying to teach people how to do sweet, like, special ops military shit. It'd be like, I don't know, yeah, like rappel off of that building, because that seems like something that, guys do.
Rappelling is something that you should absolutely might need to learn. Now, rolling around in the dirt during combat operations is nothing that I never learned any of that.
I always had to crawl under some barbed wire a few times. That's about it.
I've learned I'm up, he sees me, I'm down when you're doing your 3 to 5 second rush, but there was never a flip in there. There was never.
It's because we weren't taught the gospel of violence of the Spetsnaz.
I mean, so like my dumb lawyer ass was watching this and just like thinking about how you insured this fucking program during this period,
Okay,
because like
we're gonna talk about that because
like, similar to like what Joe was saying earlier, like there's just several portions of this where they're either rolling around or doing other things where I'm like, that is the most unsafe possible fucking way you could do that. And
I should point out that this is the safest that Sonny has ever done any of this shit. After looking at any of his video, like there's one video where he teaches like pistol disarms, which like is not a thing that you should try to do in a form of self. Like nobody's listening to this podcast to learn about self-defense. But if somebody points a gun at you, just give them your fucking wallet. That's the only lesson you need to learn.
Yeah,
but
give them whatever the fuck they want, because they have
in
pulled a gun
Sonny's
on you.
video, many videos for that matter, and he's good on record to defend this, is he points a loaded fucking gun at trainees when they go through these drills, and it includes shooting those guns. So like they're loaded, the safety is off, and his finger is on the trigger as these people grab the gun and try to manipulate it in training and shit. Like, this man is a lunatic.
Weird that he shot a guy 3 times. Can't imagine how that happened. Anyway.
3
times. How it was only
times.
one guy.
Yeah. 3 times. That was in a shoot house situation, like doing room clearing, which makes it even funnier.
Yeah. Well, I feel like he came onto the set of a TV show and somebody was like, "All right, Sonny, you're gonna have to fucking tone it down a little bit. You are too on
nuts
here."
I like how he talks about how important the Spetsnaz training is, and it just comes down to like, we haze the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
But also, and the Green Berets kind of bring that up too. Is like they're just kind of beating each other, and then you've got a guy injured. It's like, what use is that? Like, don't get me wrong, Special Forces has its own kind of hazing as well, but I do feel like they pull it back before you permanently injure somebody on purpose.
Well, like Nate and I can talk a little bit about this, is because like for instance, selection course for Special Forces is pretty much hazing.
Right.
But it's more structured than you're not just getting chained to a chair, getting brained by a guy named Vlad for 2 hours.
Right. You're not sleeping. You're not eating. You're humping gear for
it's miserable.
15 hours straight. It's miserable, but nobody's beating you.
Right. You're not being like possibly murdered by your sergeant for funsies.
Right.
When I give my guy like full credit for going full Bond villain in these interviews too. He's just like, and then we kill them if they don't train, and it's just like, and like he's like lit like he's a fucking ghoul. Like it's just the whole thing is just absolutely.
And to be fair,
like,
that's not like a selection that the Deadliest Warrior made. He always looks like that.
Yeah,
he actually looks even more weird now because like this episode's probably from like 20 years ago,
from 2009.
Right. So like he's continued to age, and he's continued to age in what I would be. He is in peak henchman era.
He's henchmaxing.
Which, as a man who I can admit myself looks like I'm henchman maxing, respect. Yeah,
a big guy with a big square head to stand in the back and be menacing.
Yeah, like I'm not going to deliver any lines effectively. I'm going to run up and attack the protagonist of the story one at a time until my neck is snapped and I go, ugh.
So let's talk about our weapons that are brought into this, because I've Joe, I know you and I have gone through some training, and this is the first time that we're dealing with modern weapons that I feel like at least you and I, Carrie, I don't know how often they let you handle grenades.
I've used all of these weapons minus the ballistic knife.
Right.
Holy shit, I cannot underline enough that was not something that was just issued out.
Once again, it's like, and then their melee weapon, my bowler with razor blades taped to it. Like,
I do like that for hand-to-hand combat. They chose a Russian/Soviet because they can't really decide which era this is. The only flag they ever show is the flag of the Soviet Union. But I don't know if anybody's unaware of this, Spetsnaz is Russian for just like special troops.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually mean Green Beret or any, like, Spetsnaz is a categorization of like literally dozens and dozens of different groups of soldiers, sailors, airmen, cops, you name it.
Yeah, it's just like the special guys. And like
Maxim
whatever
was
unit.
like in the Navy Spetsnaz, which is like
he was.
So he does backflips while throwing hatchets on boats.
Yeah, he fights Poseidon with fucking ballistic knives. And I like that their choices of hand-to-hand combat was a knife that virtually no one was issued versus an e-tool, which, like, we're issued knives. Bayonets are a thing. Special forces guys carry knives, but, like, no, let's use an e-tool, a thing that no Green Beret in the modern age has ever fucking carried.
And also, let me tell you, those e-tools fucking suck.
Yeah, like, the second you try to brain a guy at that, the hinge is going to bust off.
Yeah. You've got one good hit in there, and you better make it count because you're not going to get a second one.
Also, I like how they frame it like we're trained in how to use it like a battle axe.
I'm trained in how to use it to build shit in.
But then also immediately goes into, oh yeah, well, it's not actually like meant to do any of this.
And that's how they decide that the ballistic knife is better. It's like, well, it's actually a weapon. I'm like, somehow it's so dumb the e-tool makes sense.
Right. I would if I had to go hand to hand, I would prefer the e-tool because the ballistic knife, you're gonna shoot that and it's gonna hit me and it's gonna suck, but you don't have a knife anymore now.
Also, in what situation are you going to get into hand-to-hand combat and then fire your knife at someone?
Shoot a knife at a guy like, oh,
Similarly, like in what hand-to-hand combat situation, like, wait, hold on, let me take my e-tool out of its compact carrying case, unfold it.
Decide how I want it, because there's so many different permutations you can have the e-tool be in. And then, and then the guy's going to shoot a knife at you anyway.
As a guy's just actively stabbing you with a bayonet or a K-bar or something.
Yeah, or just beating your head in with a brick.
Yeah, just like literally anything else.
I love the actual choice for this had been like, the Spetsnaz is like, I assume, issued a bayonet or something that they carry on them, because Spetsnaz are used in like the more of a traditional role than Green Berets are when it comes to infantry. Like, the more apt comparison is like Rangers versus Spetsnaz, but like, and the Green Berets, like, he has this Gerber tool.
Yeah, just a Leatherman.
Like, he's using the pliers to like wrench off someone's nipples in close quarters combat.
He's gonna pull out the screwdriver and loosen all the screws on your M4 sights so that you can't hit anything beyond 50 meters. Look, that sucks. I've had that happen before.
And then we come down to in that competition, the ballistic knife wins, which that is truly a battle of dumbass weapons.
But I also just enjoy that, like, they try to give it a veneer of science, but it's like, you could tell how much this was just like, because the first season was just kind of like slapped together because they needed to rush it through production. So like, they did like, oh, we're gonna test the grenades by tossing in a washing machine. We're gonna test the American grenade by like, blowing up a diorama, and then like similarly like
also they're both grenades. There's gonna be the exact same,
right?
Yeah,
so they like go through all that stuff, but it's like they just kind of like go by vibes. Because they're like,
and they have detonated like the Pirates versus Knights episode.
Yeah,
they get a granado. They get a grenade and they put it in the middle. They have it like hanging on a thing, and they have the pigs around it at different spaces so they can see what the fragmentation does. putting a grenade inside of a washing machine and then putting another grenade inside of an enclosed area and then detonating them and then making any kind of scientific observations from this is absolutely insane. But I understand why they did it, because Joe, you and I have
Someone
seen
had to get rid of a washing machine they had laying around.
Joe, you and I have seen grenades go off, right?
Yeah, they're very unimpressive.
They are. There is obviously accelerant in both of these things because they both end up with a fireball.
Well, and
There is no more disappointing weapon that you've. I don't know if you grow up playing like Call of Duty or watching movies, and you go to throw a hand grenade for the first time. You're like, oh, this sucks.
Right. And when we did grenade training, they made sure that there's an observation area because they knew every dumbass soldier was going to throw a grenade and then look over the thing and be like, oh, what does a grenade look like when it's going off? So they had a thing. They're like, look, once you're done, you can come up here. You can see what a grenade looks like. It is just a thing that makes a big puff of dirt.
yeah,
And that's it. But it is also spreading out a shitload of incredibly deadly shrapnel.
Yeah, that's
So-
what kills you. It's not like there's not like a fireball that sends you cartwheeling through the air.
right.
I have been in an ambush when hand grenades are thrown at us. They're loud, but you hardly see any kind of. It was even nighttime, barely any flash at all. But like everybody's fucked up with shrapnel. That is the point.
Yeah, it's not great. And so they also have the way that they shoot this is they're like, okay, I've got the grenade, I'm about to drop it into the washing machine. And so you drop it and then you kind of hurriedly walk away. Now, I watched a whole lot of Mythbusters, which was on at the same time. And Mythbusters also went out to grenade ranges and shooting ranges all the time. But they would actually be like, look, here's the safety protocols that we have to do to make this, to do our science and also to make this safe. And they would kind of step by step walk through, here's how all of these things work. And these guys are on a very similar bomb range. They're also in California. So they're probably having to follow the exact same things. You are not at any point in time dropping a grenade into something and then walking quickly away. There has to be some sort of explosion prepped in there.
Yeah.
Maybe it's with a grenade, maybe it's not, but they are absolutely doing this. Like, it's, as you said, Joe, it's completely unimpressive to watch a grenade go off and then go and be like, wow, look at all the little tiny holes that are inside of this pig. It would certainly be dead. It just doesn't have the Deadliest Warrior oomph. So
There's
have
also
to,
the idea that like Spike TV probably doesn't have the safety protocols that Discovery does.
I
mean,
I don't think it's not a safety protocol for the show. It's a safety protocol for the bomb range.
True.
yeah. I mean,
So-
it's you also just like and like to go back to what I was saying before. I mean, that was the thing that really got me to think about like how did they get fucking insurance coverage for this shit? Because it just like shows theoretically. I mean, it has to be staged because otherwise you would just have what's his nuts from the Spetsnaz just slowly lighting a cigarette, doing the cool guy walk away thing as he walks away from this washing machine with like a grenade, quote unquote a grenade in it. That's not a thing that exists. Like
that is one thing I fully believe is that he would have done that.
Oh yeah,
And like him,
I just don't
and
think you would have
Maxa-
been able to let him do that because
No. Like the Green Berets are like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Why are you sitting on top of the wash machine as the grenade goes off?
It's very good. It makes you feel good.
makes
Good
my balls
vibration.
tingle.
If you do not almost die in explosion, how do you know if you are a man or not?
So, Sony coming back and making Jeff DeMolin count all the shrapnel wounds in his own back. Like, yes, it's good. You count.
I mean, the whole thing is fucking stupid, right? Like chucking a grenade in a washing machine is like, and then they have them point blanking a pig corpse with a shotgun. Like, yep, shot that real good.
but it's but once again, I like it's not so much that because obviously what they're doing is ridiculous, but I like the explanations that they give for it, which don't survive like any interrogation whatsoever.
Or their
So-
simulation, which is an Excel spreadsheet.
Well,
no, it's not. It's open office. I learned that from an Ask Me Anything with Max Geiger. It's like, yeah, everybody thinks it was Excel, but no, it was the free version that we used.
yeah, I was gonna say they couldn't afford the Office
It
license.
wasn't even Excel.
They couldn't afford Office 2006 back then, man. They spent it all on washing machines.
They spent it all on pig corpses.
But it's like with the washing machine thing, they're like, well, this really simulates an armored vehicle, and it's like,
No,
Does it?
I mean,
Does it
maybe
though? Like-
maybe some early Soviet shit like the
or like I don't
BMP-1.
know, an unarmored Humvee in like 2004, but like even then, like I don't know, probably like using slightly better metal in the motherfucker.
I like my odds board, the wash machine, personally.
People who have listened to the last one, the Yakuza versus Mafia, they also had a setup there where the Mafia was
the what?
The Yakuza versus the Mafia.
Yeah, they saw that one Simpsons episode and they were like, "Fuck yeah, we're making an entire fucking simulation of this shit."
The Mafia's like ranged weapon is a Molotov cocktail, and the way that they test this is they go out, they have somebody throw it at a car, but this car already has like every window broken out in it. So like, you know, if you throw a Molotov,
drive around.
Right, if you throw a Molotov cocktail at a regular car and it hits the windshield, it's not going to be a great day. But you're going to survive if you're in the car because it's going to break on the outside and all the accelerant's going to burn off really quickly.
Yeah, my Prius is getting away from that, no problem.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you move fast enough, you'll be good. It'll all evaporate off. But yeah, they had to. Not only do they have throwing the Molotov in there, but I'm certain there was also more accelerant in there. Just be like, wow, it went up really quick. And you know, anybody who has any kind of background in weaponry and knows how these things work or has seen them deployed, much as we're talking about with the grenades, knows that like this is just complete bullshit. And I understand this is Spike TV. This is TV for men, which means it doesn't have to be right. It just has to look cool. But
and
like in
Spike
a lot of
TV
ways,
doesn't exist anymore, does it?
No, I don't think so.
Good.
It probably got rolled into some other thing, and
now it's just called Balls Network.
Balls of Steel. That's the TV show that I want to watch. Just watching dudes get.
Let's be honest. This became YouTube. Like the reason why like Spike doesn't exist anymore is because it just like all of this exists, but in a way that is like much more conservative, violent, and like stupid than ever. And you know, with like worse spawn con.
So Spike TV died in 2018.
Yeah,
Mr. Beast. I know you're listening. Please buy Spike TV and bring back Deadliest Warrior. Let's really ramp up our grenade tossing. I think
this is going to have to be bleeped out, but can we redo Deadliest Warrior, but instead of using a pig carcass, we just
we'll have Sonny teach Mr. Beast how to use a gun. There's at least a 10% chance one of them is going to die.
There is one of the really disappointing things about this episode compared to some of the ones that came before it is because it's just two ethnically aligned gangs. They can't just, their experts aren't just, we found an Italian guy walking around and just decided to give him a gun, because that's one of my favorite things.
Or the IRA versus the Taliban episode where it's like, this is an Irish folk singer with no connection to the IRA whatsoever.
His grandfather fought in the 1916 rebellion, which was technically also the IRA, so it counts.
Yeah, exactly. He fought it. He fought with the officials, fucking 80 years ago.
There's also the problem that this episode can't really seem to decide what era they're talking about. Whether because it's obviously not the modern day. This was filmed a very long time ago, obviously, but like the Spetsnaz are not using AK-74s. The Green Berets were. I mean, they're still technically using M4s, sure, but like,
well, it's like the Green Beret guy. I mean, they talk about his qualification. He fought in the first Gulf War. And it's like, man, my dude would be solidly like the old guy at the end of the VFW at this point.
And one of them did fight in Afghanistan.
Yeah, one of them fought Afghanistan, but the other one was like,
which is something him and Sonny could bond over, I guess.
Well, that's
so you guys lost too, right? Oh, not yet. We didn't.
No, not yet. We got another 15 years, baby.
Yeah, no, there was the one part of the opening narration, like the Green Berets who kicked the Taliban out of Afghanistan. It's like,
there's two things about both of these groups that age amazingly. There is the say like they kicked the Taliban out in a couple of weeks, and then there's the Spetsnaz group, which is their B-roll is them raiding a hospital.
Yeah.
Well, the problem though with the Spetsnaz raiding is that they only kill the bad guys and never murder a civilian. Like the ballistic knife, like when they're talking about the ballistic knife and they have the recreation, and the guy's like, "Oh, whoa, bad guy's got a gun to the head of the nurse," and the Spetsnaz guy's like, "Whoa, sorry, I've only got a knife. Oh, I shot you over the shoulder." Like, no, they're just murdering everybody. They would have J-damned the whole thing if they had one.
Sonny is like, "This is actually our secret weapon." You see, I used it when the terrorists, they captured a bunch of people in a theater in Moscow. This is a vial of aerosolized fentanyl.
I mean, the final battle that they have in this is totally accurate. The Spetsnaz would win, but it would take them 5 times as many guys. Like their secret weapon is actually just making the Green Berets run out of bullets.
That sounds like the Wagner fight that they had a couple of years back.
I mean, like, the thing is all these guys are interchangeable. They could be Wagner, they could be Spetsnaz, they could be some conscript. It's all the same thing.
Well, it's like the Green Beret secret weapon is all the Spetsnaz guys are on Tinder. So they can just find them regardless of where they are in the
They're hunting
building.
the Spetsnaz guys down on like Tinder and Grindr, and the Spetsnaz guys are hunting down the Green Beret dudes on Strava.
Or their book tour.
They're just gonna launch a missile to Fox News like green room.
A series of chemical attacks happening in the Barnes and Nobles across the country.
I mean, that would be a deadly.
I did a book tour at Barnes and Noble. Fuck you.
And you had a gun with you the entire time. You were ready.
That's true. That's because the Proud Boys threatened to kill me, and their like little parade or whatever it is you want to call it was like one street over in Seattle at the time. I was like, I'm not canceling my book tour. Those are the guys that suck.
Yeah, you guys suck.
Hear me out. Rebooted Deadliest Warrior episode, but for like conflicts that have happened in the last 2 decades. First episode, Green Berets versus a bunch of Venezuelan fishermen. Who would win?
That's unfair. Only one of those guys was a Green Beret, and he didn't go.
All right, let's talk about some other weapons here. So our mid-range, the Mossberg shotgun, an 8-round pump shotgun versus the Sega shotgun, which is a semi-automatic 12 gauge. They had to split this up because you've got two different, they're both shotguns, but they both, pump action versus semi-automatic. And as you said, the first one, the Mossberg, they just shoot it into a pig and say, "Yep, that's dead." But for the Sega, they have Sony flopping around on the ground, shooting around corners and making blood go all over the place.
I mean, I did really enjoy the Green Berets just being like, yeah, while he's rolling around, I would just shoot him.
Yeah. I would do that too.
I absolutely love, like, I have no love for the special forces community of any country, but it is very funny watching the Green Beret. Like, why is he doing that?
What are you doing? Why are you on the floor? I would just shoot you because you're on the ground. Why are you
doing the worm but armed with a shotgun?
Like, I'm pretty sure just breakdancing with a shotgun.
Sonny's got a lot of flexibility that I wish I had. He does. Obviously he's doing some circuit training. He's doing some Pilates. He's keeping himself flexible. I would just not
all Zumba. It's all Zumba.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of Zumba. Is that the one where you get to listen to pop music while you do it?
I guess so. The Green Beret guy just gets really into CrossFit, which is why his knees are busted.
And the Sega shotgun wins. I don't think that it really mattered to have the two different things because you've got one that's pump action and one that's semi-automatic, and they're both 12 gauges. Like, I think the biggest thing here is that they should have taken every weapon and like buried it in the dirt for a week and then pulled it up and then said, okay, let's go shooting.
The interesting part was it would be they would dig up the American weapons and they wouldn't work, and they'd go to dig up the Russian weapons, and all the Spetsnaz guys would have sold them for booze.
You just see Sonny with like a bunch of boot polish around his mouth. It's like, is he trying to do blackface? Like, no, he's just really fucking high. But also, yes, he's trying to do blackface now. He's so stoned he wants to do blackface.
This idea of like, oh, we have to test what shotgun is more deadly is so fucking stupid. It's 12 gauge shotgun being fired from a foot away.
Right. Well,
one is all you need.
Yeah, and then they bring the M4A1 carbine versus the AK-47, which is a argument that has been happening since Eugene Stoner.
It was an AK-74.
AK-74. But ever since Eugene Stoner and Kalashnikov put their guns down and said, look, we made guns, this argument has been happening about which one is better. Now, the M4A1, our Green Beret says that it's safe, semi, 3-round burst, and fully automatic, which is incorrect. The A1 is fully automatic, though. I did get to shoot one of those.
He was using an M4A1.
Yeah. And then the AK-74, like as you said, they don't use that. They have the AKM, they have the 103s.
74 has been out of date for so many years.
Yeah, it's 74 because that's the year it was made. It's 50. It's a 50-year-old rifle. But also, again, I don't understand how you put the two, how you're comparing the two, because and again, I'm not going to get into the arguments about caliber size, about distance, about the little sights and scopes and everything that you can put onto it.
And nobody's using optics at all.
At all.
Yeah,
Well, you don't need to when you're only shooting from about 20 feet away.
Tell that to the guy at the gun range that spends way too much money on his M4.
I know that guy. Don't worry. He and you know what? That guy can hit a target, but the M4 ends up taking it, but only like in the when they run through the simulation, the M4 gets 311 kills while the AK-74 gets 288. And again, as you said, they can't really figure out where they want to place this, because if we're going to do this,
point out that the AK-74 was replaced before the show was aired in 2001.
Yeah.
If we want to make this as when Sony was in Afghanistan, an AK-74 is fine, but then our Green Berets need to be working with an M16. And I'll give them
then the Green Berets need to just be at home.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, it's like also too, because when they talk about the Green Berets, they talk about how they were, once again, they were in the first Gulf War, they were in Kosovo, like that was solidly M16 territory, was it not?
I mean, one of the guys was in Afghanistan. He would have had M4 for sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, during this time, but I don't know if the A1 was around in Afghanistan at that time.
I have no idea. I think there was enough of a difference in armament at that era of Afghanistan and special operations. It's probably a little bit here, a little bit there.
Yeah, that's fair.
And look, because we said this is 2009 when this was, or probably 2008, 2009 when this was shot.
The AK-74 successor had been in service for almost 10 years.
Right. So bring it. But look, I don't know if the 103 is actually going to be any better. They all kind of follow the same pattern.
It's a different. It's as different as the M4 to the M16.
I do think that it's good that they're both using carbines, though, because they have the carbine is more of a medium range rifle, because they do have long range sniper rifles. The M24 rifle versus the Dragunov. There's only 1 point of kill difference between them on the simulation. The M24 gets 85, while the Dragunov gets 84. They're shooting at maybe 50 meters with these things.
Right.
And Sony cannot shoot for shit. Like, he's going for headshots and keeps fucking it up and admitting it's like, yeah, I was aiming here, but I'm like 2 inches off, which for those of you who are not shooters, 2 inches off at 50 meters means like 12 inches off at 300 meters. Right?
It's bad.
Yeah, it's not good. Like, you're not hitting your targets there. But yet Sony also shows that he's got a way better ability with the Makarov pistol than Matt does with the Beretta. And the kill scores for this is the Beretta gets 4 while the Makarov gets 12. And the way that they test this is a night shoot. They have to put the nods on, put the night vision goggles on, and there's a couple of dummies up. Some of them have stars for the Spetsnaz, and some of them have the sword for the Green Beret. And as they're going through, you have to, if you're the Spetsnaz guy, you got to shoot the guys that have the sword while you're wearing this. So Sony goes through. It takes him 17 seconds, but he's very methodical. He hits all of his targets, and then Matt runs through it and completely whiffs one guy. And they're like, well, obviously this means the Makarov pistol is the better one. It's like, but again, he just sucks with a gun. Like, I don't know if we can.
Yeah, he just rushed through it. He just ran through it and like just kind of whiffed. Like, it has nothing to do with the actual value. Like,
he got too excited. He's out there. He's like, I'm going to show these guys up, and then he fucks up. He drops the ball. And honestly, I think this is what made it so that the Spetsnaz wins at the end, is because our Green Berets that we have just suck ass.
And maybe their job wasn't to be the guys pulling triggers. You never know. He's like, yeah, I'm in special forces. I went to Q course 15 years ago, and I'm in charge of retention at Fort Bragg.
Hey, you know what? He's got more trigger time than I do. But and look, I will never tell you that I was good with a pistol. I was.
Yeah,
not.
but you're also not going on a goddamn TV show.
I think I could. I think I could go on Deadliest Warrior, like Deadliest Pogue. See who like public affairs versus like the cook.
I mean, first of all, the cook is always going to win because have you eat their food? All right, they'll death from within. It's gonna be like this week on Deadliest Warriors, we have Francis Horton, PAO, versus Sergeant Smith, 42 Alpha, administrative assistant.
Hey, my last 42 Alpha was a badass. He was pretty. He would have kicked my ass on that. And so our long range rifles, the M24 takes it by 1 over the Dragunov. Again, I don't really buy that, but whatever. And then we have the E-tool versus the ballistic knife. Two weapons that are two things that are not really weapons. I don't really believe that ballistic knives exist outside of goofy online stores where you can buy it for $50 and then immediately get it taken away from you because it discharges and stabs you in the leg.
Yeah,
it
because
exists specifically for video games.
Right.
Yeah. Or, it's something that you buy and then immediately gets confiscated from you at the airport, and it turns out possession is actually a felony and you're fucked.
I think doesn't the in England they have a knife that like shoots some sort of CO2 cartridge into you and makes you blow up or something? Like I saw them test.
So I did find something about there was a ballistic knife issued to Spetsnaz in the 1970s, and Spetsnaz operators universally fucking hated it because it barely worked and they never used it.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining the British version is one that instead of CO2 it puts nitrous in you or something. It's a way to get high after stabbing yourself.
And the Soviet Union invented the NRS-2, which was a knife gun.
Wait, so hold on. Is that a knife that has a gun attached to it, or is it a gun that shoots knives?
So the second option is way cooler.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's the first one where it was what looks like a K-bar, but that had a single shot pistol round inside.
That's kind of badass.
You could stab a guy.
That's kind of I kind of want one of those. That's almost a Final Fantasy.
It's a gun sword.
It's a gun sword.
Yeah, gunblade. It was called a gunblade. Don't be mad at me, everybody.
All right, so let's talk about some of our reenactments as well. I absolutely love that every time they're showing the Green Beret reenactments, not just the one at the end, but during the entire show, every Green Beret is wearing a Green Beret and not wearing full battle rattle whatsoever.
Yeah, not wearing a helmet, like whatever else, just like going into, kicking in doors in Afghanistan, because I think pretty much all of the reenactment that they show is them like fighting in fake Afghanistan.
Yeah, outside of the Spetsnaz raiding a hospital. Yeah, everybody's in Afghanistan, which is fair, I suppose.
Yeah.
So you've got the Green Berets wearing their Green Berets. I also love that anytime they were out on the gun range doing gun stuff, Matt would show up and he's got his full body armor. He's got the radio headset. He's got his little scarf and everything. He's like full battle rattled up. And Sony shows up like that Turkish Olympic shooter, just like shows up in some dirty coveralls, just like, yes, I shoot the weapon. I shoot the gun. I shoot it good.
Yeah, or like an old leather jacket, like cigarette dangling from his lips, just like having just.
I feel like Sony would have been chain smoking this whole time if they had allowed it.
Having just woken out of a vodka hangover that would have killed any of the three of us.
You're lucky if it's only vodka.
Right, yeah, like air gas. I mean.
And also during these reenactments, when they do get to the final stage, nobody's wearing any kind of body armor. The Green Berets are only wearing the load bearing equipment. I don't know if that's a budgeting issue or if that's we don't actually know what these guys look like. They are wearing that god awful UDP UCP universal camouflage pattern. Which brings back terrible fucking memories.
Their collar is done all the way up.
All the way up. Got to keep the bugs off of your neck, man.
I mean, it's also. I don't think. Do they use the sniper rifle at all in any of these?
I don't think so.
It's one of those things where they go through all this trouble of showing what all these different weapons can do, but then all of the Spetsnaz guys die almost immediately, except for the one guy who then takes out all of the rest of the Green Berets. Which, I mean, I suppose builds dramatic tension, but is also just very stupid. It's just dumb. Like, it's just, I mean, it's kind of like, E-tool. I mean, kind of like, like just going back to it, but it's, the testing the E-tool, and it just shows him braining the guy with the fucking E-tool and cutting his, skull in half. And it's like, well, that would definitely be a kill. It's like, yeah, man, you hit anyone in the skull really fucking hard with something. And it's like, I got a fucking crowbar over here.
Yeah,
you know what that's going to do? Shatter someone's skull if I just like go full broadsword on it and just smack them in the dome. Like, this isn't a particularly special thing that they're doing. It's kind of like comparing roughly equivalent firearms. Like, it's basically the same thing. You could use any fucking thing. I could use this, Rawlings baseball bat, and it's going to have about the same effect on a motherfucker.
You could use a shovel in your back shed. If you hit someone in this head with the edge of it, you're probably going to, get it stuck in there pretty good.
Yeah.
Look, a long-handed shovel, you're going to get both hands on it and be able to swing. You're going to get a lot more power, and probably it's not going to break in half after the first time you hit somebody.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean,
I have broken so many fucking E-tools, man, just on dirt. Dirt.
I've because you don't really entrench on a fucking boat. I've only ever used them like while going camping or something, and I've never like, whether it's a military surplus one or whether it's a fucking aftermarket, whatever tactical one, like they all just fall apart almost immediately.
Military grade. Oh, I don't want to use that.
Yeah, my father-in-law gave me his E-tool from when he was in during the Vietnam era, where it's just a wooden handle and then the thing, and it's great. That thing, I use that in my garden all the time. It holds up really well. All those little ones with like that fold up into little tiny things, they suck. They're just too many points of failure on those. Yeah. They're all made out of like shitty plastic too.
Right.
All right. So in the end, the Spetsnaz wins. Once again, the expectations that I came in here with were shattered. I kind of figured, like, no, of course the Green Berets are going to win. But in the end, the Spetsnaz wins. The final soldier yells, "No one will ever defeat us" in Russian, and then leaves the room after shooting a knife into a Green Beret's neck. And so fast forward to 2004, and we'll see how that's going.
Just walks outside, gets immediately drone striked.
Yeah. Yeah. Sonny is crawling around in the dirt in a puddle of blood, which is another thing he says that Spetsnaz do in training, while like a Walmart drone just domes him with a grenade. Yeah, Spetsnaz! Oh, my legs!
and then once again, like, just going back to it, but it's just vibes. Well, they only won by 7, but also they're just tougher. Okay.
Like, what is the mathematical equation you put into your Excel spreadsheet for like toughness?
Yeah, like guy vaguely intimidates me a little bit more, so therefore he wins.
Yeah,
like
Sonny snuck in through the production window in the middle of the night, like, you're gonna make us win, or I'm gonna chew on your insides, like I did in a fucking hospital.
Sony pointing the ballistic knife at Max's computer, be like, "You will give us better numbers next
you
time."
You will make Excel spreadsheets make us be victors. It's open office. We can't afford Excel.
This one particular production team is just entirely infiltrated by the local like Russian mob, and that's the only reason that they won this.
We now go. We'd like to thank our local production team in Brighton Beach. All of them weirdly named Gennady. We're not really sure why. I mean, I don't really care who wins this, but it is like it goes. It's a perfect encapsulation of like how the culture was back then and how people saw. I mean, people still see things this way, where it's just like, no, their military training is very, very hard because, as you can see, it's all abuse. And like, I don't give a fuck about Green Berets, fuck them, whatever. But like, and people still thought the same thing, is like, oh, this country doesn't stand a chance because these are who's going to be coming for them. And it's just like a bunch of underfed dudes in red berets doing burpees in the snow. And now they're all dead.
20% of them are going to die here. The other 80% of them are going to die slightly later over there.
It's the same. It's what media wants the military to be like, right? They want to see their special forces soldiers doing dumb cool guy shit, which is completely meaningless, because that is a lot more exciting to watch. And like, why are this particular group of special operators who, maybe we've never heard of or whatever, like, why are they so competent? It's like, oh, because they're actually like well-read, they're intelligent, and they do purposeful training that is honestly still kind of cool to watch, but it's not as cool as doing like a cartwheel fucking double backflip off of a moving bus through like 6 pieces of plywood or whatever.
and into a flaming building, like while, screaming and shooting an AK-47 off in all directions.
Yeah, you're not looking for, and I'm not saying there isn't a place for dudes who do that in battle. It's called just infantry. Because if you leave a bunch of infantry dudes together unattended, they will do that stuff. But like, it's not the 50s anymore. You can't do push-ups to get yourself out of a problem.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the large adult son theory of combat effectiveness. I mean, as you were talking about before, Joe, just whether it's Egypt or other, it's just this idea that if we get enough large adult sons together and get to do enough cool guy stuff, we will be an effective combat force. And that's just not a thing that's true. I mean, it's why you end up with a bunch of guys off the coast, getting smoked by a bunch of Venezuelan fishermen, or like, any of the time that these guys try to go off and do mercenary shit on their own, they almost all end up in some sort of smoking crater.
Yeah, the only reason they're ever effective is because of the logistic system that keeps them alive.
Yeah,
right.
And like, if you look at pictures of Green Berets, obviously not counting the modern age of like the vet bro roided out freak show,
cocaine addled, like, yeah.
If you look at like how they are founded, they look just like normal soldiers. There's nothing special about them, which is kind of the point.
Yeah, they're just normal dudes who can do more push-ups than me, and that's.
Yeah, they can run really well. They can march really well. They're probably quite smart because doing this shit is not easy. And like, when you
got a couple languages under their belt, Green Beret, you can't just like kind of wander in and be a Green Beret. It takes a lot, but it feels like you can just be a Spetsnaz.
I mean, being Spetsnaz is not difficult. I mean, we've talked about it before over on my show of like, and the Deadliest Warrior has like, oh, the size of the Spetsnaz is 15,000. It's way more than that. Because I mean, well, it's probably less now, due to events, but Spetsnaz can mean anything. It's literally just a special troop within a unit. And, there is the red berets, which they show them wearing, but that is not a universal symbol of Spetsnaz, right? Like, that is just one group of them. And then, like, there is, Green Berets, we have, the United States has Navy SEALs. They have things like Delta
Rangers,
Force,
Delta,
ODAs, things like that. They have other groups, which we probably are not aware of their existence, doing horrific shit that we can't speak about because we don't know the details yet. That's why you can compare the Spetsnaz probably more 1-to-1 to the Rangers, because the Rangers are a much bigger body of soldiers who do special operations type things, but they're still mostly infantry. That is a more fair comparison to the Spetsnaz, but even then it's not exactly 1-for-1, because like the Russian military is still intensely and deeply corrupt. So the Spetsnaz is mostly just like dudes who are kind of in shape but also have political connections.
Well, gentlemen, I appreciate you guys coming on to talk about the Green Berets versus the Spetsnaz. I was, again, surprised by the end of this that we got a Spetsnaz win out of it. But
I love an underdog story,
We do. We love the underdog. I feel like maybe if they had done Army Rangers, we would have gotten somebody a little bit better. Maybe not somebody so rusty. Like Matt's been out for a while. He's probably doesn't have a whole lot.
But I like it because that is like your average dude in the ranks probably still isn't getting a ton of trigger time as much as like a gun tuber.
Yeah, it's true. So Sony's like, I've been preparing for this for years, decades.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the guy in Act 2 is like, I had CQ last night.
I mean, what's it? Kind of alongside Deadliest Pogue, we just get Deadliest Vet Bro. So we pick guys out of VFWs and out of off the
I think heart disease wins that.
Off the grunt style, man. No, lung cancer.
Grunt style versus Black Rifle Coffee Company. Let's set it up.
You pick all these guys, and specifically based on maybe off of Twitter, all these guys like, oh yeah, I used to be a foremost, but just pick them, and then we just we put them against each other. We just But I want to be very clear to the actual death.
Yeah, I want to do this, like a reboot this, but like have it be like dudes who are in the same battle against one another. Like, hey, we found this Taliban dude who was like there during this ambush. Now you guys are gonna do Deadliest Warrior together. Like the sexual tension in that room could be cut with a knife. It's like that scene from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's like, are you going to fight me? Are you going to fuck me? And I took him out back and I tore his ass up. It's like, oh, holy shit. Did you hear that, guys?
Gentlemen, I appreciate you coming on. Joe, you also have a podcast that people, if you're not listening to, you should be. Lions Led by Donkeys. You can actually learn about a lot of what the Spetsnaz has done. And
so many things.
So many things. None of them as effective as what we've seen here today. I think Deadliest Warrior is the most effective we've ever seen at Spetsnaz because they won in the end and nobody died.
because they have a bunch of school children in the way of the Great Berets.
School children, nurses, the theater goers.
People who are just existing. Yeah, it's really the Russians and Americans have a close kinship on. I'm at the mall and I might just get gunned down for no reason.
By a guy in uniform?
Well, yeah, by a guy wearing camo. Whether or not it's state sanctioned or not, you're probably going to fucking die at any given time in Russia. Guys, thank you so much for being on here. Everybody, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.